Hello, and welcome to Body of Knowledge, where we believe that the body helps make knowledge. Okay. I have, I think, a long topic today. So I have some notes in front of me. I'm gonna be looking down throughout. I'm going to try to record this in chunks to give each section the time and presence and attention that I would like it to have. Now, this all started because a little Google search looking for Marcel Mauss's anthropological writings on the body kind of derailed me this morning. And so I want to talk about why that happened, because it was definitely a bodily response, and it ties directly but in a very different way to a few videos ago when I was talking about how we fail to the level of our bodily systems. We fail to the level of our bodies. And I'm not saying failure here is this bad thing, right? I'm trying to embrace failure as part of the learning process. So I got so excited this morning. I found a web page called The Anthropology of the Body, and it was laid out so beautifully, and I became so excited about it. I get that this is a me thing, but we all have things that excite us deeply, and so I was so excited to find this resource, to find this person, and just immediately I became so overstimulated. It felt like my crown chakra was wide open. It felt like I was just flooded by the feelings of excitement. And so I'm sitting here at my computer staring now, so excited that I'm not even comprehending what's in front of me. And I'm like, okay, well, you have this thing and it's exciting, so read it. Read this page. And I couldn't read it. I just didn't have the capacity. So what I did instead was clicked over to Facebook, and I'm scrolling through. My go-to scroll is looking for chairs on Facebook Marketplace. Another me thing. In any case, this has happened before, but this time I was sitting with it and I'm like, why am I doing this? I am genuinely excited about this page. I'm genuinely excited about this discovery. So why am I going to social media? And the easy answer would be like, oh, I'm addicted to social media. But I think that it's actually much, much deeper than that. Okay. So what is going on? Well, the first thing that happened is that I immediately felt this resonance with the source in front of me. Resonance is something that often gets talked about in somatic therapies, or not even somatic therapies, but therapeutic spaces in general, like a resonance between the client and the therapist. There is also, was it John Holloway? No, Charles Hale, I think, talked about the resonant hum in anthropological research, the hum that develops between the anthropologist and the community and the people that we're talking to. But I don't think it even needs to be face-to-face for this resonance to occur. So I had this moment of incredibly high resonance, and that immediately activated my system, my internal bodily systems. So I think that is important to name, because we have this idea that ideas are neutral, or that scholarship or that reading is neutral to the nervous system, but that is absolutely not the case, especially with something like this. Like, rightly or wrongly, a lot of my identity is tied to the research I'm doing. It is deeply personally important to me. It's part of how I am representing myself to the world. And so I have this source that could hopefully and potentially be a reorganizing agent in my life and in my scholarship. That's actually really, really huge when you think about it, especially thinking about like homeostasis and how we are, we have evolved towards this kind of sameness, and then seeking out ideas, seeking out experiences, seeking out other people that destabilize and change. That's exciting. And depending on your capacity, can even verge into feeling a little bit dangerous. And I think that's kind of where I was getting into. I talk a lot about capacity, what I have the capacity for. It's something that I'm constantly building and stretching and working with. But when this activation, this excitement, when it exceeded my capacity, then my concentration just totally disintegrated. And yeah, I talked a lot about having PTSD and how it orients me in the field. I also have kind of a predisposition towards freeze response, and so there's something within me that when I come across something that's destabilizing, I want to avoid the freeze response. And so like clicking away is this kind of internal safety mechanism. Once again, the body is not logical in the way the cognitive mind is. So it doesn't need to make sense for it to be true. Like, I can tell my body reading this article is not going to kill you. But that doesn't mean that it always listens. So social media is an interesting, I was very curious about why it was like social media specifically that I was using as this kind of unhealthy regulation tool, but actually it makes sense. So if my dopamine system is activated by this very exciting idea, or potentially, I didn't read it, so I don't know, this potentially exciting idea, this big dopamine hit that is also asking a lot of me. It's asking me to engage. It's asking for a reorganization of my internal thoughts and being. Well, I can go to social media and get a lot of dopamine hits that ask nothing of me, right? I don't have space to buy another chair, sadly. So even if I find an amazing chair, which I often do, the most I'm going to do is share it to my feed. It requires nothing of me. I don't need to message them. I don't need to go pick it up. I don't need to do anything. I just have to like appreciate this amazing chair. So it's like I get I get similar stimulation that has much lower cost biologically. I think that scholarship is destabilizing by its very nature. Like, truly powerful ideas, truly powerful scholarship is destabilizing, not just to individuals, but to our cultural frameworks. I mean, think about Galileo, right? His scholarship, it destabilized an entire institutional framework. Like, heliocentrism, it wasn't just about like stating the facts. It was about this reorganization of self, of theology, of our whole conception of what it means to be human on this earth. So we're not ever just dealing with the facts, which is another reason why I don't believe that research is ever objective. Just looking at my notes. So a couple other things that come up when entering a field for the first time. And I fall into this pattern even when I critique it in others. It's like so hypocritical and it takes me a minute to catch it. But often there's this idea, like, if I don't know that this exists, then it can't exist. And especially as a scholar and as an artist, I have this belief, entrained belief, that my contributions should be creative and original. And so that's another part of this destabilizing the identity piece, is like when I come across a page called The Anthropology of the Body, which is something that I want to research, like, yes, it's exciting to find somebody to be in conversation with, but then it also invites in these imposter syndrome questions, like, oh my God, the work I'm doing is not original. Someone has already said everything. Where do I stand? Does my positionality matter? Does it add anything? Is it creative? Is it original? Like, what do I need to refine or do differently in order to fill a gap of original research? So scholarship can be volatile in quite a few ways. And as I was meditating on what happened this morning, I started to think, like, oh my God, scholarship is kind of like gambling. Like, when I sat down at my computer this random Thursday morning, I wasn't expecting to get this win. And then, like, another way, it's like my complete inability to work with this excitement. I mean, think about how many lottery winners end up destitute. Like, it does feel a lot like gambling. So I want to circle back to the idea of creating original and creative research. So I used to be a musician. I grew up in a poor family. My parents did let me be in band, got a flute at the time. I think it was a 40-year-old flute from a family friend, and it was not a good flute. But I had an instrument to play. And everyone else around me in the top anyways, so I wasn't taking private lessons. I had an inadequate instrument, yet I somehow made it to the top band. So out of like 20 flautists, I was regularly in the top 5. But there was this like internalized messaging that if I was going to succeed at this, it was going to be entirely based on my own meritocracy. So this lack of scaffolding that the flautists 1, 2, 3, 4 chairs above me, that they had that I didn't have, that was like invisibilized. So I was trying to perform at this really high level without the same support other people were getting. And I just think that this idea of meritocracy rather than support has bled into how I approach academia, because as I'm going to have to publish my dissertation. I'm going to have to publicly perform it, whether, is not, I'm not going to like read it in public, but it will be available for people to read. And so it's like kind of feeling like a performance of a sort, without having the tools. I'm going to pause there because I feel like I just need a break. Okay. So to get more into like how does performance translate to academia? Like, this is great. This is accidentally answering a question that I had months ago. It's like it's about the visibility in this particular case. I have a lot of fear of making a mistake. Perfectionism was trained into me as a musician. We would get yelled at, we would get screamed at, we would get in a lot of trouble for making mistakes. After every performance, there was always someone in tears because they had missed a note or ended up on the wrong step. And I think I don't know if it's more pronounced or not, but that's also present in academia, and something that really sits heavy on my heart is Naomi Wolf. A lot of people know about Naomi Wolf as this kind of fringe conspiracy theorist, but at one point that wasn't always the case, and I'm guessing, but I think the shift in her identity came when she was publicly humiliated. In her dissertation, she had misdefined a key term, and it kind of changed her research, the trajectory of the research. And this man, like, gleefully, unbiasedly, objectively, publicly shamed her in an interview. Like, it was very unkind, and it was what do they call it, like an attack, like a what's that word? A surprise attack. I don't know, my military language isn't up to par. In this case, I do think military language is the correct language. Just gleefully publicly humiliated her, and like set up that disgusting dynamic where like I am the smart intellectual man and you, silly woman, couldn't even define your terms right, and that's not even my field, but I defined it correctly. And I think that kind of public humiliation might be what led to her drift to the right. And so I think about this. I can't help it. I think about it, and I think about like, okay, well, what's the worst that could happen if you misdefine a term? Is it going to be that big a deal? Because really, scholarship is about evolving. Scholarship is about iterating. Scholarship is, or is supposed to be, about changing. But we don't make space for that for each other. And so then it's hard to make space for that for ourselves. And so when I think, if I was in the hot seat, if I was being publicly attacked in that way, I'm like genuinely have some fear in me. Like, will I have a panic attack? Will I just have a complete shutdown? Because I have had times, non-traumatic times, that were somehow triggered my dorsal vagal memory, that I froze. And so I have this real fear that if I get something wrong, that my survival instincts are going to kick in, and not really in a constructive way. So when I see something exciting like that, it just triggers this whole cascade of things that happen so quickly that I can't, comprehend it in the moment. So then I just click Facebook Marketplace and distract myself. So there's a lot going on. This is not just because Facebook is addictive, social media is addictive. Like, I genuinely don't like gambling, which I know social media was like designed after slot machines and things like that. So for me personally, I'm not really buying that argument. I think that it's much bigger and it's very rooted in my body, in my body memory. Another thing that this is bringing up is class relations, middle and upper class people, especially within intellectual environments, they are early on exposed to tutoring, to being corrected, to learning to refine their ideas from a mentor. And so they learn through the process to do this. Like, it's part of their training. Whereas lower class development, it's more often this austerity messaging, like, we live in a meritocracy. If you succeed, it's up to you. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which was originally meant to mean that's impossible, but we've taken it to mean that it is possible if you try hard enough. And so there's this idea that, like, people are naturally smart, people are naturally brilliant, and if you are smart enough, if you are good enough, then it should be easy for you. And that, I just don't think, is ever the case. Scholarship is not about being solitary. All of life is about relationality, including scholarship. So as I was thinking this through, as I was trying to tell myself, like, you're not an imposter, I was like, yeah, well, what about Leonardo da Vinci? What about Tolkien? What about Einstein? And then I was like, okay, brilliant. I'm sorry that they're all men, but brilliant nonetheless. Let's think about this. Leonardo da Vinci, he was an apprentice in someone else's workshop for years. He got training, he got support. Tolkien taught, what was he, at Oxford? He studied philology and medieval literature. Like, he didn't create the Lord of the Rings from nothing. He was steeped in knowledge that had been supported and built up over time. And then, like, Einstein, sure, he failed the institution, but he kept learning, he kept teaching himself. He was obsessive about studying, a bit of an autodidact, but still there was a foundation there before the genius arose. So I'm trying to come to terms when I come across something like a page like the Anthropology of the Body, or like another place I'm trying to come to terms with is like, so it all started this as I was looking up Marcel Mauss's work, and I was like a little bit frustrated that I'm gonna have to spend time reading this, and I was like, I've just been telling myself, if I want to have creative research, I have to be fluent in the field. That means knowing what came before me. So it's a little bit like that quote of what luck or success is where luck meets preparation, or something like that. Like, this fluency and this capacity building is part of the process, and some people get that capacity building along the way, along their journey, from the time that they're young to when they're adults, and then others of us, we have to do that capacity building in our own time, on our own ways. I can't remember the wording of that sentence I just said. I hope it made sense. So I've done that through a lot of somatic work, through somatic experiencing, a lot through journaling, a lot through reflection, and a lot, importantly, when it comes to the body of knowledge, a lot through attuning myself to what's going on in my body. So this pattern that emerged today, and this breakthrough, it really does feel like a breakthrough that happened today on this random Thursday morning, It was because I have put in the time and I've built up the skills and I've built up the fluency in the language of my body, so that when this shift happened, I was able to slow it down enough to notice, kind of like, I'm just on the internet, I'm clicking, I'm exciting, and I'm done. Like, that all happened very quickly, but I was able to slow it down enough to notice it, to recognize the pattern in the past, and then to start questioning beyond what other people might say. Again, it came from this foundation, not from nothing. So all of this is about becoming fluent and learning and being supported. So, okay, I'm gonna pause again. Haha, I actually worked the pause button correctly this time. I keep accidentally stopping it and creating a whole new video, which is annoying for later. Okay. I am often worried about the practicality of things. Like, okay, what does this mean? Why is this important? Why does this matter to me? I think that all of this understanding matters because it doesn't mean that I'm never going to face this pattern again. I most definitely will. But noticing the pattern, being able to slow it down, allows me to be able to intervene and break up this pattern. So, for example, instead of forcing myself, being like, okay, you have this thing, now read it, like, allow the excitement to be there, allow it to happen, allow it to occur. Maybe naming it, being like, wow, this is really exciting to find a whole webpage titled The Anthropology of the Body, when that's exactly what I've been looking for. Like, I think I've probably searched the anthropology of the body and nothing has ever come up interesting or exciting. And I search for Marcel Mauss and I find anthropology of the body. Like, that's exciting to me. I'm a nerd. That's exciting to me. So just like naming it and allowing it to be like, okay, this is exciting. And then acknowledging that I have all of this activation happening in my system. I have my crown chakra blown wide open. And so like taking instead of going to Facebook and inviting in all of this stimuli, which then distracts me away from what I'm doing, maybe get up, move my body, shake it out, like maybe even imagining, like, or not even imagining, just like actually closing, putting some support on the top of my head to like bring some containment in. Or like another thing is like a lot of this energy feels like it's going up, 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 up. So how can I counter that by coming down? Maybe it means like stomping my feet on the ground or just like curling my toes into the carpet, or energetically imagining that grounding cord coming down into the center of the earth. There's a lot of things that I can do that are not directly related to scholarship, but that are. They very much are, because they're going to help me engage more deeply and they're going to help me build my capacity so that I can then return and actually read this exciting writing. Another thing about it that I'm trying to think about as I'm constantly, as a PhD student, trying to think about how and when I'm consuming content, and it didn't really occur to me until all of this happened, is like, again, just tuning in to what is my capacity. I've been having a lot of health issues, which I've talked about. Then last week, I had a very minor injury at the gym because I pushed myself too hard. Like, I've never done that before, and that will never happen again. But no, like, I actually hurt myself. Like, it wasn't sore, I was like in pain for a few days. So then that happened, and that dysregulated my whole system of regulation because I felt like I couldn't work out as much. Then my wisdom tooth started coming in, and that hurt so much. Like, gosh, babies, I feel so much compassion. Like they're going through this. Anyways, that's not the point. Like, that really, that hurt so fucking much, and basically derailed my whole weekend. Probably like 3 or 4 days, just because the pain was so intense. And then I wasn't eating as I should be. And so like I didn't sleep last night too, probably because I didn't eat enough, and then my body thinks that I'm starving. So I did get up very early and I went out and I got myself breakfast, but I still didn't eat enough. And then I sat down, so I'm like in this already very depleted state, and then I encounter something that far exceeded my capacity for the morning. These are just things that we don't talk about when we don't consider how important the bodily systems are to the work that we're doing, when we don't think about how actually intense and volatile scholarship and learning can be. All of these things seem tangential, but they're actually central to the point. Okay, so quite a lot came out of this encounter this morning, but excitingly, I'm studying with the body, a lot of insight into my own body, and hopefully some of this will help other people think about, instead like what I have done in the past would be to beat myself up, to call myself names like, you're stupid, you don't belong here, like, you call yourself a scholar and you can't even read this web page, you should drop out now. To instead being like, what is going on? Why is this happening? And like actually being curious and engaging in the process. And once again, this is something that requires time, because it seems easier in the short term to like buckle down, override, power through, just read the article. But when I think about how much I will retain, how much this actually, like, I do want my research to change me. I want that to happen. But if I approach something, and this article, like, I haven't read it, it could be shit, but if I sit down and I read it from this like closed, rigid space, I'm going to be less open and less receptive. Whereas if I do the somatic work to open myself back up, to tend to my capacity, then I approach this article in a much more receptive, open, and creative mindset, which will lead to more creative connections, which will lead to more creative, original scholarship. So it all ties together. It's all important. And once again, it comes back to, we fail to the level of our bodily systems. Okay. Is that all that I have to say? I think so. I think that's it. Okay. Thank you. Bye for now.